hello out there in social media world, anchor world, you know what it is, wherever you found this show. This is MentalShift. And if you're wondering who in the heck this lady is in the pink, and if you're listening, the lady that you're listening to, my name is Mras. I'm an international speaker, award-winning, believe it or not. I'm also a trainer. Not the kind of muscle trainer you would think I might be. No, I'm a trainer of the mind. I'm a communications coach and a speaker coach. So I help people discuss in their heads what they're saying to themselves so that they can speak out to the world in a better way. Now, I'm also a two-time author and the host of this podcast, MentalShift, and I'd like to thank you for joining me today because I always have really interesting people. Today, she's a coach. She's an empowerment coach, and her name is Erin Baer. I met her on a Zoom meeting, and I believe it was like for a publisher thing, a mutual friend who's a publisher. And I met Erin really briefly and said, I want to talk to you. I need you on my podcast, and you'll find out why in a minute. So please welcome Erin Baer. She's the author of From Beaten to Badass, and you can find her all over social media and on her website, beatentobadass.com. Please welcome and thank you for joining me, Erin.
Thank you so much, Michelle. Glad to be here.
I'm glad you joined me. I'm kind of pushy when I do. I want you on.
Yes, you did.
I did. It's how I work. Well, the reason I wanted you on is because one of the biggest things that have been running through my heart, especially when this shutdown happened and everyone got stuck in their homes, basically, my first instinct wasn't, oh my gosh, I'm stuck at home. My first instinct was, oh my goodness, all those children and all those people who are being abused and beaten are stuck with their abusers. That's where my brain went. And when I met you on that call, I went, we need to get Erin's story out. So my first question to you, Erin, is what came first? Were you a coach first, or did your book From Beaten to Badass come out first?
So I was actually a coach first, and I was teaching people how to live a healthy lifestyle because I was living a healthy lifestyle. I was doing bodybuilding, and people wanted to know, how did I do it? Why did I decide to do bodybuilding? Could I help them, get the body they always wanted and teach them the healthy lifestyle that, so many Americans dream of having? And so I started coaching. I got my personal training certification and I started coaching, and it really started opening my eyes to the mental side of things because bodybuilding is such a mental game and many people don't realize it. They think, you just work out, you eat a little healthy and that's it. But really it made me self-reflect and go deep into myself and see why I was doing it. And I really started, that's my cat in the background, so I apologize. He wants to participate. So I really had to do a lot of, self-reflection and self-inner work on my mental side. And I also realized that that's where people was challenging the most for people, is that they thought they could do all the external pieces, the physical, and then the healthy eating. And so then the book came along because God just kept tapping me on the shoulder. And when I didn't listen to the tap, he basically yelled in my ear, last January and was like, you need to write your book. And I was like, okay, I'm listening. Like, all right, dude, back off. Like, I got this. Okay. So I started writing my book last January, and it took me less than 6 months to write. And then I really started coaching more people through that journey on, sharing my journey of writing the book and what I was going through and how I was feeling and, the process and progress of, my story. And that's how the book came all about.
So what's a brief of your story? I mean, because From Beaten to Badass, what is a brief of your story? I mean, your book, what is that?
So the best way I can explain it is really, kind of read the little synopsis of it. Raped, beaten, nearly killed, bullied, abandoned, abused, and broken. I shouldn't have survived, but I did. And so it really goes into the depth of my life. I mean, I'm only 37 years old, but I've lived a life that, many don't have to live. So I was abandoned as a child, meaning that, there was many times that my mother abandoned me and didn't want really anything to do with me. I was bullied in school all the way from kindergarten up, and then I've been on my own since I was 14. I always had a roof over my head, but I was on my own. So I had to work 4 different jobs. I had to support the family, and I had to do as I was told. And they weren't really around, but the parents weren't really around. And so I feel that that was a form of abuse. And so I never really had a good role model of like how I should be treated or, you know, what I was supposed to do. And so I just, you know, follow suit, and I got into really bad relationships, and every single relationship got worse and worse and worse until I decided to move out here to Colorado, follow my dream in the whole golf world, because I'm a huge golfer. I'm a teaching professional as well. And I met a guy, and I was like, finally an adult relationship. And that turned out to be a very bad relationship. It turned violent fairly quickly. He moved in without my consent, and he started beating me and sexually assaulting me. And he got really, really bad. And thankfully, it was only 7 months long of hell, but 7 months too long. You know, the first time I got hit should have been the last, and it wasn't. And he was a lot older than I was, and I was abused. And finally, when they, you know, a lot of people say, oh, she just snapped, whether it was with abuse or a job or a marriage or, you know, a situation. When women snap, there's a reason, and we just snap. And well, I snapped, and I kicked him out, and I wanted my life to just, you know, be forgotten, that whole part of me to be forgotten about. And I wanted to just go on and live my life. I had lost my job, my dream job. And I called animal control, and that's a whole nother story, but they were my saving grace. They ended up going after the guy, and I got out of the situation. And then I decided that I had to take control because everything was taken from me. So my story really dives into, you know, the before of the abuse, the tipping point of the abuse. And then right after, I was completely lost. I was a lost soul, you know. I had nothing. And so I went into bodybuilding, and that's really how the coaching started. And I found myself again. I was able to reclaim who I was and who I was always meant to be, because the little girl in me saved me. I didn't save myself. It was that little girl that has always been beaten down. You know, she's the one that came back up and was like, come on, we got this. Like, I got you. And, you know, that little girl has always been around. I think we all have that little girl or that little boy inside of us, and they are our inner child, and they know what innocence looks like. They know what true love is supposed to be. They know what we're capable of, but we usually shut them down as we grow older, because that's not okay, right? We can't be that little person. So the little girl in me definitely saved me, and a lot of people along the way. So I just talk about, you know, the journey of, you know, what my life was before, and then the abuse that occurred throughout my life that I really didn't know about until I had the tipping point, and then the life after that I have now, after the whole abuse and sexual assault. So I hope that answered your question. I know it was long, but
No, that's exactly what I wanted to hear, because my thing is, and I'm smiling through the whole thing, and people are probably looking at this show, dude, Michelle is demented, she's smiling through it. No, I'm smiling because, spoiler alert, here's Erin. The spoiler alert is there is another side, and you can get out no matter what your background is. And so often I talk about, you know, embracing your inner toddler, because you're right. We all have a child in us that got quieted down somewhere in some point in our life. That's where our inner critics come from. You know, I wrote a whole book about it. Yeah, It's Not Luck Overcoming You. There's an inner critic in you, and it's based out of that little kid that saw something or witnessed something or was abused or hurt or whatever that is. That child, you get locked at that age, and then everything just kind of piles up. And then when you need that strength again, you need to tap into that child that got you out in the first place, that you become an adult, and say, what do I do? Because the toddler, that younger child in you, I call him the toddler, but the younger child in you doesn't see the limitations of an adult. The younger child can see possibilities. The younger child can get you out, because they don't say, this can't happen because of this. They don't do that. They just do. This is what needs to happen. We need to get out. We can make it. I did it before. We can do it again. Yeah. Yep. That's why I say the inner toddler, but it's usually about a 7-year-old that does it.
Yeah.
7-year-old you. See, I was tapping in on you.
Yeah, you were.
From beaten to badass. And this is the reason I wanted you on the show, because there's a lot more happening than really the media is talking about. They say, the abuse lines they have less calls. and which is horrible, but we all know why. Those of us who've been through an abuse situation know if it's not safe, you don't do anything, because the number one thing of dying is running away, not prepared, not ready, not without a plan. You must have some sort of a plan. And I know, Erin, you said that the National Domestic Violence Hotline, we're in the world of technology, right? We're in the world of cell phones. When you go somewhere alone, get this number if you are in a situation programmed into your phone, and name it something like Susie or your best friend, whatever you need to do, so that you can call it if you ever get in a situation that you need to get help. And you said something else. There was a website.
Yeah, so the hotline.org is also tied to the National Hotline for Domestic Violence, and
it's just
hotline. The hotline.org, and they have all sorts of resources about staying safe during COVID, and you know, explaining to people if they want to look it up, you know, that the public spaces and working remotely can help keep the spread from spreading for COVID-19. But right now it's creating a lot of danger for those victims that are locked in their houses. You know, most of us are very safe at home. We're with great people, family, loved ones, but those that are in domestic violence situations are not safe. And I was actually on a website the other day that I use for the campaign that I'm doing with my book, and I did a screenshot of it, and across the United States there were 81 users on this site that helps give people resources that are involved in domestic, you know, that are victims. And I was on it, so you take me away, there was still 80 users, and I watched the number, and it was pretty crazy because you could see it go down real fast. And it was just breaking my heart, because first we're at 81, and then we're at 79, and then we're at 65, and then we're back up to 70. And I'm just like, oh, they're hitting the escape button, you know, constantly to get out of there so nobody sees what they're doing. You know,
the major there, the escape button. For those of you who've never gone to a website like that, there is an escape button. There's a button so that they can't, if you're in an abuse situation, they can't see where you were.
Exactly. And it's very important, you know, so you are safe to look it up if you can, but really remember where that escape button is, you know, and push it. Because I have tested it on a couple of different sites, and it takes you to Google, like you're doing a search. So search like, oh, fur baby puppy videos, you know, funny fur baby puppy videos, or something that they know that you're interested in. What?
Something benign.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, it's just heartbreaking, because I was sitting there watching the numbers go up and down and the purple spots all over the country. And it was just breaking my heart, because so many people are not safe right now. And because, you know, there's so many different forms of abuse. There's violence, there's physical abuse, there is sexual abuse, there is financial abuse, there's child abuse, there is gaslighting and coercion, you know, and here we all are losing our jobs, right? A lot of people are losing their jobs. And if those people aren't working, you know, the victims aren't working, if they're non-essential, and then their perpetrator, their abuser, their monsters aren't working. So they're constantly home. And you can only take so much of someone, you know, even if we love them. But I can't even imagine being in that situation right now, where people are just walking on eggshells normally, and now they're walking on eggshells with glass on top. Like, they just feel so stuck that it breaks my heart, because this COVID-19 thing is so deadly. And if I was to put my mind back into the mind of when I was being abused, I'd be like, oh, please let me get sick. Please let me get sick so I go to the hospital, you know, just so, because then they're not allowed in that room. And then maybe I have a plan, and I can tell them, like, don't, you know, like, I'm being abused, or I'm being this. Like, it's such a bad place to be. And my heart breaks, and I want people to know, you know, there's help out there. You know, the hotline.org can direct you if you're here in Colorado, violencefreecolorado.org. And I bet if you just put domestic violence help in your browser, if you can, only if you're in a safe place. Please don't do it if your abuser is over your shoulder watching. Please, please, please don't. And don't do it on a computer. Do it on your phone, where you can erase all that.
Well, and that's what I was thinking, to program the number, the 800 number.
Yes.
under a friend's name, someone that's been in your world for a bit, so that that name doesn't look odd when you have it sitting open on your phone. But
Right.
the number to save, and I'll have it written in the description, but 1-800-799-7233. That's 1-800-799-7233. That works in the United States.
It does. Yes. And then I know that Canada is tied to domesticshelters.org. So you can look up, shelters, and this is a website I go to, domesticshelters.org, and they are with US and Canada. So we can definitely get some resources for international if we need to, so that you can put them, down in the comments and make sure people have help. But they can reach out to me. I know they can reach out to you, and we will be more than happy to direct them to where they need to be. But it's important that people know that, just because we're safe at home doesn't mean everybody else is safe at home. People aren't seeing the bruises. They're not seeing the body language. They're not able to sense, what their friends are going through, or their family members. People aren't going out in public. They're literally, a lot of people are trapped at home. And if I had to give people advice, if you're watching this and you are being abused, if you contact a friend and you are in danger and you can't say anything, then talk off the wall of something that your friend would be very confused. And if you're a friend and you do get a very off the wall comment or conversation started by one of your friends, then you need to check in with them, because something's not right. They're not confusing you with somebody else. You can call 911 and order a pizza. We've seen stories on that, but it just breaks my heart, because I want to go and, help all these people, and I can't.
Well, and the thing is those of you, if you are in an abusive situation, you can feel it as your danger is escalating. So find a point where it's quieter, that you can say something. So basically, like, let's say for me, like I was telling Erin, if I called one of my friends and said, hey, I've been binge eating donuts all day, and I can't wait to eat more, that makes no sense coming from me. So if I started to do that, so that kind of make a plan like that with a friend who you've already confided with, and then that way they understand something's not right. She's either, okay, well, maybe she's running a high fever and we need to call for help anyways. I don't care what it is, but call for help, because that's something saying, I need you, but I can't say I need you. So keep that in mind. And just think of the incredibly high level of stress that everyone's going through. So those of you who are watching from the outside, who can't even imagine why anyone would stay in an abusive situation, high levels of stress. If you are in a household with someone that you already care about and you can feel the tension coming between you sometimes, imagine where someone's already under tension. Now add all of this added stress. So their abuser becomes even more abusive, which is terrifying. But now the outlet of getting some fresh air and being able to breathe and be able to actually get your heart rate below 3,000, because that's kind of where it sits, is gone. So there's just all this tension. And that's why I wanted Erin on the show, because her book, From Beaten to Badass, so that people who are in situations now realize there is life after abuse. And that for those who have never been in an abusive situation, can see it from another point of view. See, a lot of times people think, oh, she's got it all together, or he's got it all together. Oh, they look like the perfect family. Yes, men do get abused. I've known several men who've been like majorly abused. And honestly, with men, it's even worse, because it's very hard for them to get help. The ones I've met have been like black belts and things like that. And so they'd never even be able to even push back, or their abuser would accuse them of being the one beating them. So yes, it's all getting bad for everybody. And then the kids, of course, are also in that equation. So if you're a teenager or younger or whatever, and you hear this podcast, remember what we said. Know that website, thehotline.org. There's an emergency button. You can get out of it. So many of us are on our phones right now, and hopefully they didn't take your phone from you if you're in an abuse situation. The 800 number is 1-800-799-7233, 1-800-799-7233. I'm also going to have it in the comments at the beginning and the end of the show. And then call a friend and make no sense at all. It's kind of what the lady does with the pizza when she called 911, ordered a pizza, and they're saying, "What's your emergency?" And she says, "Yes, I definitely would like pepperonis and extra onions." This is 911. "Oh, of course. Yes, I would love thin crust." This is 911. What is your address? "Oh, well, how long will it take you? Because I'd really like my pizza in 30 minutes or less. My address is," that kind of thing. So keep those in mind. Just because you are trapped with your abuser, if you are being an abused situation, doesn't mean you can't get away in times of trial. And I wanted Erin on because so many of us look at other people and we have a stereotype version, a movie, a Hollywood version of an abused human. And it's always a woman who's cowering in a corner and all this kind of stuff. No, sometimes the abused are actually very strong in public. You'd never know it. You'd never know it. And so if you get a weird call from somebody who you always say, "Oh, she's got everything together." I mean, look, Erin was a freaking, she was she was into bodybuilding and health, and she was so healthy and so together. She was in an abusive situation. You never know. Never judge a book by the cover. And especially if they're reaching out and acting very odd, help them. I'll get off my soapbox for a
No,
minute.
you're good. It's very important that people understand that, it's a stressful time, it's a stressful situation, and it was stressful before walking on eggshells, but now you covered it with glass, broken glass.
And Legos.
Yes.
And see, and from my perspective, I'm thinking women with children, they can say, "Oh, wait, if I can get the disease or a semblance of it, maybe I can get sick and go in the hospital." "Oh, I can't because I have children."
Right.
So there's another added, oh gosh, looped into that whole thing. Now they're all stuck. And wow. So I know you just signed a petition in Colorado. Can you tell me a little bit more about that for those of us who are in Colorado?
I sure can. So Monica Duran, state representative of House 24. She's in House District 24. That's in the Jeffco area in Arvada. And she's a dear friend of mine. We served on a panel together for Red Rocks last year talking about abuse. And she wrote a letter to Governor Polis about not forgetting the victims of abuse. And, yes, we're trying to do all these things where we want to help everybody with their finances and everything like that, but to please, please, please not forget the victims of domestic violence, because they need resources more than ever right now. And because of the social distancing and all of that, the shelters are having to put certain protocols into place, which limits the access to those that are, victims of domestic violence and sexual assault. So I signed a letter, put my name on it, along with many other individuals and organizations here in the Colorado area, that says that we are asking the governor for more money, more supplies, and help our domestic violence victims to make sure that they are not forgotten, that they're not dismissed, and to remind them that they're not alone. Like, we are here for you, we haven't forgotten you, and we are working behind the scenes as much as we can to make sure that you have access to the resources. And if you need to escape, the shelter in place does not apply to you. If you are in danger and you can safely escape, to please do so. And you will not be in trouble, you will not be fined, you will not be arrested. And I'm pretty sure that a lot of other states are starting to follow the same process. It's just a matter of really staying up to date and seeing what's going on and reaching out to your representative. If you feel that those victims aren't getting the help and resources that they need, reach out to your representative in your state and say, "Hey, look what Colorado's doing." I believe the UK is also on board with getting the resources that they need for domestic violence, because they're seeing a rise in crimes, but like you said, a decrease in calls because people just can't call right now. And so it's definitely on a lot of people's minds. It's just bringing it, to the front lines and saying, "Hey, this is what's going on." this is what's happening. And knowing that there are people that care about you and we're here for you and we're doing everything we can to let you escape safely and get you the resources that you need so you don't feel like you are trapped in your situation.
Now, I'm thinking back to one of the things you said about when you find yourself in your abusive situation, that it kind of escalated from your childhood of abandonment and it just kind of kept going, so that when you got into your abusive situation, you went, oh crap. And I shared this with you before. The same thing happened with me. Other things happened in my life that when I got into my abusive situation, not the one I'm in, not my family now. My family's fine. I've been with the same guy for 30-something years, but inside of that college time period, I was in a very, very bad situation. But when it happened, I went, I need help. And then after I didn't get the help I asked for, the next thing was, well, maybe this is where I belong. Maybe I'm less of a person and therefore I deserve all of this. If you're thinking that right now, don't. That is part of the brainwashing that happens in an abusive situation. And you've all seen it. We've all seen movies. We've watched videos. I mean, we know. But when you're in it, it's different. It's terrifying. And just know that the world is there. We have not forgotten those of you who are hurting. We're worried about you. And now we're worried even more about you. And be smart, okay? Don't die running away. Be smart getting away. Find sneakier ways, okay? And I know we're talking on a podcast, and hopefully you've got earbuds on and you're hearing this. Be careful. Be safe. Find help, but do it discreetly, because we want to see you on the other side, okay? Even if you have to message us on Facebook, I mean, message Erin, or you can message me and say, hey, I need help. But you'd have to do it really discreetly. I think Erin would be faster since I get a lot of messages. But say, I need help. This is my address or something. I don't know. You know.
They can actually text me directly if they want to. I do have a line for that. And that number is 303-578-8837. Again, that phone number, if you want to text me directly, nobody else has access to this phone number. It's my business line, but I get text messages. So 303-578-8837. Excuse me.
Okay, so I'll put that text line, 303-578-8837. Okay, just because you're not alone. And my thing is we're all on social media. So we're going to probably come back on in a couple of days after this comes out and go live on Facebook and have like a open hotline, so you can say me. And I don't know what we're going to do. I don't know yet. It's in my heart, and it's terrifying me. And I wanted Erin to talk about it because it's something that I've never had on my show. We've never talked about domestic violence, and it's all domestic violence, okay? It's not just women. We're talking men and children, okay? Teenagers, I don't care who you are. There is a way, there is still help. I know you don't get the chance to go out and for a walk and breathe and actually get your heart rate down so you can actually not be walking on eggshells and glass and Legos. But you'll get through this.
Yes, they will. You guys are all badasses. You just have to get back up. Please know that your circumstances do not define you. They do not define you. And don't let anybody tell you any different. You are a badass. You just have to get back up. And that's what we're here for. We're here to lend a helping hand, an ear, a shoulder to cry on, whatever. But please know that you are enough. You are enough, and you do not deserve to be hurt.
And you're looking at two women who've survived it, okay? So there is a light on the other side, and it doesn't make you lesser of a human. Matter of fact, you can be stronger on the other side, okay? So get help. So thank you so much, Erin, for being on my show. It's such a serious, scary subject because we know it's happening. It's just such a quiet thing. Secrets, dirty little secrets, right? No, they're secrets that need to be stopped. Erin Baer, she is a empowerment coach, and she's the author of From Beaten to Badass. And if you want to look up her, find her up on her website. It's Beaten, BEATENTO, Badass, BADASS.com. And or connect with her on Facebook, and that way you can message her. Thing is friends are friends on Facebook. FYI, it's another way. Because I'm terrified. And for those of you who don't know, or you suspect you've got a friend who is going through some sort of a situation like this, be very weary of them. And you can maybe the next time you talk to them, or whatever how you're communicating with your friends, write them or whatever and say, hey, write me. You've seen it on Facebook where people say, write me something very random and ask me what's the gluten-free version of that recipe. Something as simple as that. I'm trying not to cry. Okay. Be the best version of you. You know your situation. You know the limits. You know the energy. You know when things are shifting. Be watchful for that. Keep yourself safe. And when you find your window, you get help. The world is paying attention right now. They are looking and trying to help with the domestic abuse numbers, because the thing is the abuse lines have dropped. The calls have stopped, reduced tremendously. That is a huge warning sign. That means those of us who need help can't call because we're stuck with our abuser. They know it, so find another way. Erin, you have any parting last words you'd like to say?
I just can't wait to see all of them when they are, really living their true life without abuse, and that they are a badass and we are here for you. We truly mean that with our dearest, our dearest hearts deep in our soul, because we've been there, we get it, and we love each and every one of you. You are badasses. Never forget that. Always be your own hero. Do what you got to do. And we'll see you guys soon. Thank you so much, Michelle. It was such an honor.
Well, thank you so much for joining me, because this is a serious subject. And remember, you may be beaten, but you are badass, and you'll come out the other end even more badassery, okay? But find your power. Know you, okay? Know what you're good at and know what you know better than that other person. If you have friends that you suspect, please keep an eye on them and try to set up some quiet way of them to be able to reach out for help from you. I did meet someone who has a free app called eBodyguard, right?
Yes.
eBodyguard, it's an app and it's free right now. Now here's my thing. It's free and there's a tester button that you can immediately call 911. So, I mean, even if you downloaded it for the moment and hit 911 for it to call when you needed it, it might be kind of handy. It records everything that is happening around you when you hit that button. Now, in my case, I know if I tried to download any kind of app, I would have been caught. So be careful with that, okay? So be the best version of you, find your way, reach out for help if you can, and do it discreetly. The world is waiting to hear your voice. So you need to get out the other end. And you can write your own version of Beaten to Badass. So take care, everybody. And thank you for listening to Mental Shift. And please share this, because someone in your circles, you may not even know it, needs to know this information. Some of us were really, really good at hiding what was happening to us behind the scenes. So take care, everyone, and be safe.